go.
Streaming from South Africa to the world. This is the Stonks Go Moon podcast. What just happened? We break it down so you don't have to.
Welcome everyone to the Stonks Go Moon podcast. My guest today, Ciaran Murray, is the founder of the Olas Foundation. Welcome to the pod.
Thanks very much, Rocco. Glad to be here.
Man, I love what you are doing in the media space. That's why I wanted you on here today. And I thought to myself, listen, I've got muckrack credentials as a journalist. Many people don't know that. So I'm going to do this podcast in an interview style, right? I thought that would be fun. So I'm going to give you like some hard-hitting journalism for a change, you know, this fluffy conversation stuff. But
okay, do your worst.
Yeah, but before we get to that, just give the listeners like two or three sentences at the most about what the Olas platform is, so that they know what we're talking about.
Okay, best summed up as a decentralized media platform, which in layman's terms is a media platform that won't have an owner. It won't have a media mogul calling the editorial shots, and it has open quality control mechanisms as opposed to closed ones like editorial and peer review.
Yeah, and that's what was fascinating to me, because we saw now with TikTok, you know, Biden came in there and he took his pen and paper and he signed the bill, and now TikTok, which was essentially it became a news platform for many people, right? And now it's on the precipice of disappearing. And so my first question is, can you describe the moment, right, or the inspiration that led you to believe that blockchain was the key to democratizing media?
There wasn't any singular moment, and I'll tell you why, because blockchain alone is not the solution here. Blockchain is a key part of the puzzle. It's kind of one of, I'd say, 6 or 7 foundational technologies we rely on to make this happen. Blockchain is the bit that means we can build a platform nobody owns. When you post code to a blockchain, as people who are familiar with the technology know, it becomes, you know, it takes on a life of its own. It's beyond the control of its controller, of its creator, sorry. So that's one piece. But the next part of the puzzle is, okay, fine, it's trustworthy in that sense, but what about the data that's going on it in the first place? So we needed stuff like oracles to be invented, and Augur and Gnosis and Chainlink came out. So we're like, okay, that's another piece of the jigsaw.
Sorry, what is that?
Then we're like, okay, fine.
What is that for people who are not that tech savvy?
Okay, so these are protocols that incentivize people to publish data to whatever ledger it may be, usually a blockchain in our case, honestly. Using economic incentives. So you basically have to bet on that data. So the skin in the game. So then that they happened, but then we were thinking as well, okay, that's fine, but who is publishing this data? Are they able to set up thousands of identities? Are they able to set up a bot that can be tens of thousands of identities? And in that case, would they just not be able to bias the publications in whoever their paymasters' interests are? So we needed a way of proving that a single identity is just a single person and they don't have any other identities. So then stuff like proof of human protocols like Bright ID came out. And then we had to also prevent people from colluding with each other. And there's stuff like MACI, minimum anti-collusion. I can't remember what the I is for. These are all things we didn't just take, by the way. We're all kind of, we're iterating on these for our specific needs. So then that came out, and then of course is like, okay, very well, like they all work, but a media platform requires huge amounts of storage, huge amounts of computation. The likes of Ethereum, Bitcoin, blockchains cannot handle that. They're just not designed for it. So then we required something like the internet computer to be invented, or Arweave or Filecoin to take that piece of the puzzle. There are others as well, but like they're kind of the main ones that all had to come together. And then we had to design stuff in-house ourselves, stuff like for subjective opinions. How do you evaluate subjective opinions? We had to design entirely new protocols for that ourselves.
How did
so
you
I'd
do
say
that?
It was only about...
Sorry, how did you do that?
Using a thing. I went digging.
Yeah?
Academia is great for kind of throwing up solutions to problems that don't exist yet. And I was like, I have a problem and I need a solution. And I went digging and I found this amazing idea called Bayesian truth serum, which basically encourages people to enter a market where they think they hold the right opinion, except it's unpopular. So you're not going to bet if you think everyone else is wrong and there's no clear answer to this question. There's no point in betting yourself because you're going to be in the minority and it's never going to get resolved. So there's this amazing questionnaire where someone who enters the market doesn't just bet on what they think is right. They bet on what the masses or what everyone else thinks is right too. Okay. So it encourages what I call these correct contrarians to enter the market. So we took that idea and we actually built a betting market around it as well. Okay. We made it work conceptually. And that was actually the final piece of the jigsaw. And I'd say it was only about a year ago where we as a team looked at each other and go, you know what, everything's here now. We can go and build this.
Talk to me about the betting element. How does that work? Because when I hear betting, it's normally in a gambling sense. That's what we are getting with sports betting and financial markets. Yeah. So what is this betting in terms of the platform? How does that work?
Okay, so literally everyone who wants to get involved in this platform has to have skin in the game or a stake, because the prospect of losing money keeps people honest. Nothing keeps people honest more than the prospect of losing money. So if you are a contributor, and you have raised money, which is another aspect of the platform we can talk about later.
Okay, so whoa. So I have to put my money where my mouth is, literally.
Yeah.
So if I want to play, I
absolutely.
have to, how much capital, if I want to, like, let's say I'm intrigued now, right? So you've got me. How much money do I have to pony up to get involved as a journalist or a media house or whatever?
So there's going to be a minimum bet and probably a maximum bet too.
Okay.
To be decided. And it will probably be sector specific.
Okay.
If you're writing on some big topic that's national news, I'm sure the minimum bet's going to be a lot more if you're writing on your local underage sports team.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it'll be kind of different, but so you will get within that band, you will choose your own stake, and that will probably be a lot to do with how confident you are about what you're writing as well. If you have a little bit of doubt in your mind, but you want to write this piece, you mightn't bet too much. So let's say you stake $100 on your every market works a bit different. So let's stick with news for now, right? $100 on a news piece.
Yes.
And $20 of that actually goes to a bounty for fact checkers to literally comb your article and find something wrong with it. So they're solely incentivized to find something wrong with it. And if they report an issue, the matter kind of gets kicked up to a judging panel, which is carefully selected to avoid collusion. The judging panel, let's say for the sake of this conversation, is 8 people. It will be consisting of 4 or 5 people who would have put down, their journalists or contributors themselves, who would have put down this area or topic as an area of knowledge or expertise of themselves. So they're already on the protocol. They already have money locked in the protocol. So they get selected. It's like jury duty.
I was about to say jury duty. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And just like jury duty, they have to do it or else they get slashed. Yeah. This is part of the social contract. Okay. So those 4 or 5 are fulfilled 8 of the seats. And then just to minimize groupthink, because if those 4 or 5 people are all in the same area, that laziness sets in, intellectual laziness, cognitive dissonance, whatever. Just to guard against that, we leave the other 3 seats open to people who might be outside the space, but are just very good at making judgments. People like what Philip Tatlock would call super forecasters.
Okay.
So that creates, and all these panelists are anonymous. All the votes are anonymous, so nobody knows who anyone is, and they know it's randomized. So the only strategy is to go with, well, what do I honestly think the best case is here between, let's call it like the prosecution and defense being the journalist and the prosecution being the fact checkers. They have to honestly bet on each individual issue that was raised. And payouts to the contributor or journalist will be determined by the score the judging panel gives. The rest will be given to the fact checkers on the basis of which
that's the 80
facts are
part.
raised.
Yeah, sorry, that's the 80 part, right? So we took 20 from the 100, and you're not talking about the 80 part. Okay.
Yeah, so of the 80%, let's say they get a 60% score for their article, they only get 60 of that 80, and the rest of it gets put back into the Olas pool to fund future journalism. The fact checkers get their share of the bounty amongst themselves, and the judges get paid out in terms of how close they were to the median judge. So if you were miles away in every answer, you get slashed yourself. So everything's about consensus through healthy economic incentives. So that's news media. The other ones work a bit differently.
It's blowing my mind right now, because I can sort of see the amount of thought that you and your partners and everyone working on it must have put into it. How long did it take for you guys to conceptualize this?
A good year.
A good year.
Like, as I said, all that we realized about a year ago, the possibility of designing something like this was there. It took us then a year to build all the mechanisms. I just described one of the most simple mechanisms, by the way. I won't even go into some of the others. Like they're really, really hardcore. So it took us a year to design it. Now we're kind of at, okay, we can raise and build phase now.
Is there scope for let's say if someone wants to upload a podcast, a political podcast, or an interview podcast about anything really? You said there's different layers to this thing. Yeah, that's basically
eventually, yes.
Okay.
We're first setting our sights on news and opinion in version 1. Version 2, we're going to add scientific publication and possibly a stablecoin at that point.
Okay.
Version 3, we can start looking at visual media, or kind of podcast, vlogs, etc.
Vlogs and stuff like that, because I feel that's where a lot of quote unquote news is going. So I think that's important.
Yeah, and it's where a lot of the misinformation is coming from as well.
Yeah, and stuff like AI and stuff. But it's fascinating that you talked about basically everything is super transparent. So why do you think?
It aims to marry the openness of micromedia, the openness of TikTok, the openness of Twitter, except they completely lack quality controls. So we're kind of going to go, okay, this is the way the internet's going, and it's great. It's better to have more diverse voices. But the big drawback in its current form is that there's just nobody had to go, hang on a second. Is this actually true? And nobody has to check themselves. And in fact, often it's the opposite. Often you're incentivized to say something that's not true. It pays more. So we're trying to kind of deal with that.
Yeah,
because it's a big thing.
Yeah, because I've seen community notes get community noted, right, in Twitter.
Yeah, exactly. At least that was a first. At least people are beginning to think about this, first of all, and that was a first attempt at it.
Yes,
I think it's a silly attempt because it's machine learning based rather than prediction market based. And I think prediction markets will be a vastly superior tool at doing that.
I completely agree, because I've seen on social media posts get kicked by algos. Everyone is complaining about where's the nuance, right? Where is the just the sort of common sense behind it all? Everything is machines, and they don't have these things.
Yeah. Right. Exactly. Yeah.
Do you guys need to scale to some sort of critical mass for you to be able to say this is a success or this is working?
Oh yeah, definitely. When there has to be revenue to this thing. we're fortunate. The beauty of tokenization is, and thankfully, tokenization exists because adoption curves for blockchain are still very slow, and still, I think, for non-speculative everyday mass market use, I think are still 5 to 10 years away. There's a lot of blockchain use now, but it's all speculative. It's a lot of meme coins. It's a lot of what's the next best big thing going to happen. I want to get involved in that. But in terms of everyday life stuff, it's just really not relevant.
Yeah.
So if we're starting to build now, and we're admitting that we're looking at 6 or 7 years before everyone's going to be transacting on the blockchain, everyone's going to be using a Web3 app, we need something to fill that gap. So what we're going to do is essentially offer early contributors equity in the protocol. Now, it's not equity. We've got to be careful. It's tokens.
Yeah, it's
but
tokens.
It's analogous to equity. Yeah.
Yes.
So the analogy I use is, imagine when Uber started in 2010, 11, whenever it was, it paid its drivers for the first 3 years in equity, and none of the customers got charged. So everyone was riding around for free, and Uber is giving away equity to its drivers. That will essentially be the first 3 years of Olas. Customers won't probably have Web3 wallets to tip and donate to contributors. So they'll just read for free, but we will encourage people to write on Olas by handing out tokens, essentially. You
are taking a long-term punt here, and I love it because it's refreshing to speak to someone in, let's call it, I don't want to call it Web3, but the future space that has realistic expectations. Because I talk to people and they say, oh yeah, we're going to do this and going to do that. I'm like, yeah, you're talking about things that are 5 to 6 years away. What are you going to do now? So it's very refreshing to hear you talk like that.
Yeah, I kind of dislike how everyone is approaching growth in the blockchain space. It's through airdrop farming. It's just all about flywheel growth, ticking boxes of users. But what type of users have you got? Are they sticky? Are they even do they really care about your platform? Do they even know about your platform? So we want to get people on board who actually believe in what we're doing and build slowly to a future of actually existing, in the future, rather than growing massive and then just fading away, which happens more often than not in this space.
So one of the challenges that I am seeing in my community is people who want to branch off into other things, but there is a very steep learning curve. I'm thinking about platforms like Nostr, for those that may be not familiar with them. How easy is Olas, the platform, to learn?
Learn in the sense of actually using, or learn as in we have to make this happen? Because both things require a lot of learning. Well, actually, from a user point of view,
yes, from the user point of view.
Okay, from a reader point of view, this is going to require no learning. It's like clicking on a website. Eventually, when we require users to start tipping, they will have to have a Web3 wallet. But as I said, we're expecting that 6, 7 years away. We expect them just to have learned that anyway on their own bat, and we will help with that process. For journalists, they will have to probably get a crypto exchange account. They'll have to get a wallet, whatever platform we build on. They'll have to learn these things. But again, it's all about the incentives. We think they'll probably want to learn these things because they're excited in what we're doing, and they get to earn equity while the valuation is low. Like, you need to stop saying equity. If they get to earn tokens when the valuation is low, I think that's an incentive to learn these things. And it's not that hard. It's really not. Publishing tool is going to be the same. It's going to be like using Substack, essentially.
Okay.
You just have to learn how to use crypto wallets. It's not a big deal.
No, it's not a big deal. Last thing before I let you go, where can the people... I'm assuming like you have been talking, you haven't launched yet. Have you launched? Pardon my ignorance?
No. Okay. No, literally just launched the website. Okay. Very extensive docs if people want to go to a very deep dive. It's all on olas.info. We've got a Twitter at Olas Protocol, some proof of concepts at our GitHub, which is you can access via our website. I've got a blog, which is also accessible via our website, podcast coming soon. So it's all basically on olas.info if people want to find out more.
When are you envisaging like this thing coming online?
I would expect at least a year and probably closer to 2 from this very moment.
Yeah,
So
I
quite a
love it.
bit.
I love it. Well, future thinking. We'll put a pin in it and we'll see where it goes.
100%.
Thank you so much for joining me today. We'll put all the links in the comments. To my listeners, peace, love, and prosperity. We'll catch you in the next one. Cheers.
Blockchain sets the people free. Prediction markets lead the way. Community's voice will sway.